Thank you for joining us in the first of our Wedding Trendsetter Interviews that form part of the International Wedding Trend Report for 2017. We're excited to have Jes Gordon with us today, who is an award-winning event producer, designer, author and star of Rocco's Dinner Party on Bravo. Now, she's also appeared on Whose Wedding Is It Anyway, Style Network and E! News and Bride Magazine's 12-part series Countdown to the Altar as the expert wedding planner, helping a real couple on a real budget through 12 weeks of preparation. So welcome, Jess. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I thought if you could just start off by giving us a little background on the types of clients and the types of weddings that you actually do, the clients that you work with, just to set the scene for us.
Absolutely. I mean, living in New York really gives us such a broad spectrum. So not only do we work on weddings, which is a very big portion of our business, we also work on corporate events, which kind of keeps things exciting.
Yeah.
And sometimes you take elements from both and kind of impale them on the other, so you keep things different and eclectic. But our wedding clients are very interesting. They're usually professional people that are very autonomous. They're not just girls dreaming of their wedding their entire lives. They're career women that want to fit their wedding lifestyle into the rest of their world, meaning that their career, they travel, they want to do something incredible with their lives other than just being married, but they do want their wedding to be spectacular enough that it really stands out amongst their already very fabulous lifestyle.
Okay, so that certainly sets the scene for the type of women that you're dealing with and the types of weddings that you're designing. So that's a good way for us to start. Now, obviously, we take our inspiration from different places, and what we're talking about today is trends. But I know when we do the trend report, we don't always look at trends within our own industry, being the wedding industry. We go a lot further afield than that. So where do you go and what industries do you turn to for your design inspiration?
Well, I am somebody that's been in the business for a long time, and I'm not going to lie, there are some times where I feel uninspired because some brides will come, they'll come in with the same Pinterest page over and over again. So believe it or not, I go to the city that I live in, New York City, and other cities that I travel to, and I walk around for hours. I know that sounds crazy, but I love to find my inspiration on the street through fashion, through people, through art. I go to museums every week. I basically hunt for inspiration through music, art, fashion, food, wine. I find a lot of inspiration in wine these days.
Who doesn't?
But, yeah, exactly. I try to find my inspiration through the five senses. I try to experience everything, through tasting and touching and hearing and seeing and smelling, because to me, that's what a very, very successful event is, something that touches upon the five senses.
Absolutely, and it's fascinating to hear you describe about the things that are around you and the things that actually inspire you. Just by taking a walk in New York City, that's where you garner a lot of your inspiration from. And it's so true, there's so much to be taken from nature and just looking in a shop window and looking at the designs within that window. It's all around you if you let it be.
Absolutely. You just have to keep your eyes open and your ears open as well.
Definitely. So the word trend, it's used quite a lot in the world of weddings and events, and being known as a trendsetter within the industry is something many of our students at the Academy aspire to be if they can. So I was wondering if you could tell us how you use and apply trends within your business and what they mean to you.
It's interesting. For me, I never really chose to do this as a career, so it's important that I feel something when I'm designing. So it's not just about evoking a visual response, it's also about evoking an emotional one. So if I find something truly beautiful, it could even be just a mass of peonies all at once, something that I could repeat across a massive room, and that gives you that feeling, that ooh and ah feeling.
Yeah.
That is how I go on using my inspiration. It'll be just as simple as just going to the market with my design director, seeing what's happening, what's current, going to current furniture shows, gift shows, things like that, and seeing just one element, but repeating it in masses throughout an event can be absolutely simple and glorious all at once.
And that's the key, isn't it? A lot of the time is keeping it simple. And the more simple, the better, but it still can have this a stunning effect.
Absolutely. I mean, your wedding day is you times 1,000. So it should express who you are as a couple, and but up here at a higher level. It's your really one phenomenal day. So it's you times 1,000. I often say that a lot to my clients.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. It's it's something that people will be able to understand and connect with. So I would imagine, as you mentioned, your type of client isn't somebody, as you say, that's been dreaming about their wedding day from the day dot. They're career women. They're probably higher profile clients, and therefore I would imagine quite fashion forward, and they'd be aware of the latest trends that are out there and possibly looking for something a little bit different. So how do you give what's trending a different twist to make it more unique?
That's a really great question because it's one of the hardest things to achieve in my business, because at the end of the day, everybody's done kind of the same thing in one way or another. What's really important and takes the most time, and it's the hardest part of my business, is really getting to know my client.
Yeah.
And I've learned, I think I've learned to listen visually. I mean, I can take a look, and right now I see that you have a beautiful teal blouse on, and that it happens to bring out maybe the color of your eyes and your hair color. I will get down to little details like that and try to bring maybe that color into a napkin or a table linen, or maybe an accent color in the flowers or something along those lines. Again, I try to observe as much as I can, because if I don't, that person's wedding is going to be exactly like another person's wedding. It has to be exactly to the personality that you're dealing with, or the personalities that you're dealing with, while being digestible throughout the room to the rest of the guests.
Sure. So really it is about understanding and knowing your clients and really taking the time to get to know them, what makes them tick, the type of people they are, the types of things they might have in their home, etc., to get a really good feel for the person rather than something more generic.
Absolutely. And it's I'm not going to lie, it's painful. And it's sometimes there are times that you feel like you don't have, you don't want to do it really, or you don't have the time to do it. But it's the only way to truly create a unique experience. It's the only way, is to observe and really take note of what makes that person who they are, or those people who they are.
Well, that's great advice, and it's certainly something that our students will enjoy hearing, because it's something they struggle with. When you're at the very beginning of your career, understanding what it is you need to do can be very difficult. So hearing words of wisdom from other people is something that they obviously enjoy hearing, and it helps them. So thank you for that. Now, there's only so many ways we can reinvent things, and trends seem to be on a cycle. They come back time and time again, and they keep coming around. So what I was interested in is to know about some of the trends that you're seeing coming back around for 2017.
It's so funny because I think a lot of women dream of a white wedding. It's just something that in their minds, white is an ethereal tone. So we are noticing that using masses of white flowers and gradients of white, working all the way from ivories to white to maybe even light grays, silvers, things like that. That seems to keep coming back around. When people say wedding, the term a white wedding is very, very famous, and it sticks for a particular reason.
Absolutely.
So we do notice that seems, that's definitely coming back over and over again, using metallics or some sort of bling to raise the decor level up to a celebratory kind of feel, something reflective like mirrors, things like that, where the light bounces off. That's coming back around and around, and thankfully, I'm happy that it is, because you can't fight with something so beautiful,
No, that's a good one to be coming back. I'm pleased to see that one coming back and doing the rounds again. You can never have too much bling at the end of the day. It's nice to give it that zing, which is what we're looking for.
I totally agree.
So, having sort of talked about what's coming back around for weddings in 2017, what are we about to see the last of?
So this is really interesting because I live in such a city environment. What we are finding is that nature is making a very big play into these weddings these days. We're kind of calling it opulent nature simplicity, where brides and grooms are having an experiential environment where maybe they're buying out a ranch in, Wyoming or something, where their best friends and families can come and experience a weekend rather than just a wedding. So they go horseback riding, they have activities, they sit by a beautiful fire for the rehearsal dinner. And then, the decor kind of follows that, where it's just rambling, organic decor that's not so planned. So there are some people sitting at one end of the table, they might see something slightly different than the other person at the other end of the table. And I call it confined organic beauty because, you're taking it to make it look natural, but you are containing it within a design itself. So I think that's kind of a very hot trend right now, for sure.
Excellent. Well, that's one I'll look forward to seeing developing. You can, something like that is so, as you say, so organic and so beautiful that it's not something that you tire of seeing, really, is it? So that will be good to see. So, what type of decor elements are we going to see for the forthcoming year? Because decor is always such a big part of it. What's about to come around? What's about to leave? What's going to be big?
I think hard goods are going to be very big, non-floral items. Specialty furniture, beautiful specialty china, charger plates, drinking glasses, the actual silverware, things like that. Serving items that are very specific and quite beautiful. So those small details, I think, are going to be very, very big. Moving away from the floral almost.
Oh, okay. So that feeling of luxury then is what people are looking for in all the smaller details.
Yes, and using interior design rather than just floral design. So creating an entire
Yeah.
environment rather than just focusing on one area. I think there'll be organic elements and such, but I think the tables will be hard good tables, possibly, regular runner tables, something, a farmer table, something like that. Chairs that are different, the ghost chairs, versus the same old ballroom charivari chair.
Yeah.
Things that are eclectic, and also mixing of the styles, kind of like country meets rock and roll, where you have a
Oh,
farm
nice.
table, but you use side chairs, so kind of like a paradox of design, but that something that harmonizes well within a space. I think that's going to be really hot, really hot.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some of your designs, especially the last one that you were talking about there. That mix.
We have a lot of great things coming up like that, for sure. What I see kind of exiting the building is the very traditional, the sit-down dinner,
Yeah.
where you're having the courses and, dancing in between. I think a lot of people are having grand reception style type of parties where guests are free to roam. They eat when they want, they sit where they want, they dance when they want. I think people just want to be free. I mean, our lives are stressful.
Yes.
And so why would you go to a wedding where you're just sitting in this box all night? I also think the European style dinner, which is something that we've learned from all of you, where you go and you have a proper dinner and then you go and you dance and you have dessert. So it's different flows of the evening, I think, are becoming the focal point rather than just the decor.
Well, that's really good to hear, and I think it's been sort of gradually happening, hasn't it, over the last 3 or 4 years? There's been that turning away from tradition, which really I think couldn't come soon enough at the end of the day. As you say, we do lead busy lives. It's, we don't want to have every minute of that particular day sort of organised down to the very last minute. You want to have a little bit of freedom within that day. So fantastic! I can't wait to see that happen even further than it already has. So we're coming towards the end of our interview. But one question I did want to ask you in particular was for our students, and you've already touched on this a little bit at the beginning of your interview when you talked about the five senses. So when we talk about design with our students, we do exactly the same thing. We try and teach them to use the five senses within all aspect of the design work that they're doing. So I was just wondering, what tips and advice can you give them on helping them to achieve this? Because this is obviously clearly something that you do very well.
This is such a wonderful and fun exercise just in life, but my team and I, believe it or not, this sounds slightly strange, but we close our eyes and we visualize the events that we are brought in to produce from start to finish.
Okay.
We visualize everything. We try to understand when we walk in, do we want a drink? Do we want something to eat? Or would we rather dance? Or would we want the bathroom to smell a certain way? Or do we want to sit in a certain way? We literally close our eyes and dream our events in real time. And it takes some concentration. It's almost like meditating. And I know that sounds, I'm a very energetic person, so it's not easy for me. But trying to visualize an event not only as yourself, but as a guest is one of the oldest tricks in the book, but the most successful. Also, take responsibility for your creativity. Go out in the world and experience things. If you've never had Indian food, go try it. Go try something that you can offer to your clients that maybe they've never had. All of a sudden you've become an indispensable hero, which is such a great place to be. I think just again, keeping your eyes and ears and tastes and everything open, try to grab life and experience it so you can then bring that over to your client's experience as well.
That's really good advice. I mean, essentially, you've got to open your own eyes before you can open your client's eyes. And if you've not experienced it yourself, how can you even hope to sell that particular feeling or thought or touch or smell or whatever it is to your client if you haven't actually ever witnessed it yourself? So that really is great advice.
Yes.
And I think it's something they'll take away with them.
I think a very important note here is that a lot of young people today are experiencing their lives through social media.
Yes.
And even though photos are beautiful and videos are wonderful, just remember that real life is more spectacular than online life. And for you to become spectacular, you need to live a real life and not just one on social media. It's a very important part of business.
Music to my ears, absolutely.
Right? I know. They're like, click, we're done.
Yeah, that is just music
like,
to
oh,
my
we don't
ears.
like her anymore.
It's
no,
so
but
true,
I love
though.
social media. Yeah, I mean, I love it too. You can have both. Just don't only live your life and get your inspiration from social media. Get it in real life.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I think we've all learned something from this interview today. So thank you for taking the time out. You're also one of the contributors to our report, so I'm looking forward to reading all the pearls of wisdom and gems of knowledge that come through to me over the next few weeks. So thank you again for that, and thank you for spending the time with us here.
Thank you, and I hope the weather gets better soon.
So do I.